Give us just a sec, folks. We are making sure that the stream is working, if you can hear us, because we had to start without a Fern this week.
Yeah, something that we're not really apt to do, because he is all our technical skill.
So give us about 2 minutes of mostly dead air for the dang stream to, there it goes, pop up in my feed so that I can be sure. Fall, say something.
Something! Hello, hello.
Okay. You are just a hair quiet, but other than that, I think the stream is working okay.
I might be able to turn myself up a little bit, if I can actually work out how. Right. That might be a little bit loud. Oh, well, we'll soon see.
Yep. I will tell you in a minute. I have to wait for it to catch up. As soon as it catch. Okay, good. We have balanced audio levels and we have a stream that works.
Excellent,
So,
excellent.
We will be doing the podcast for realsies now. How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on btwproductions.com and youtube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
And Volacel, who forgot to mute the game. And I'm not actually sure how to mute the game. What channel is it going to? I can't figure it out.
In addition to No Fern happened on a week that Windows decided a mandatory system update was going out to every single Windows PC.
Yeah, and I spent a good amount of the time before the show just trying to get things to work. Hello, hello. We're still attached, right? Hello?
Yes, we're here. My mouse was having seizure issues. So
Okay.
it was disconnecting and reconnecting very rapidly, so I could not unmute the microphone with the mouse binding. Okay, then. This is going to be a mess. So this week, we ain't got a lot for you.
No.
I'm just going to be up front with you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to wing it.
Pretty much. There's not really anything else we can do at this point. It's been one of those weeks where not a great deal happened, so...
And both me and Fall have been incredibly busy at work. I think I messaged him earlier in the week and was like, I hope Fern's got a week because I sure as heck don't. And you were like, I don't got one either. And then Fern disappeared on us.
Well, as for Fern, this is the peakest of peak seasons. They have their sort of their main rodeo shtick is this week. And yeah, he showed up online before the show and basically told us that he doesn't have anything like the energy required to do the show. He can barely speak, that sort of thing. So yeah, he's done nothing but ferry around drunk cowboys for pretty much all week at this point. And he's pretty much burned out. I don't think there's much left of Fern.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with what you have for a week. And then I at least have one game to talk about. And I might be able to do some follow-up on another one if I think about it hard enough. So why don't we start with you?
Right, my week. Okay, so mainly it's been an FGO sort of week. The new summer event for 2019 has begun. The I can't remember what the full name of it is.
Stars Super Duper Sexy Happy Summer Race Time. No,
Close
that's
enough.
not it.
It's close enough. But at any rate, so it's as an event, it's actually exceptionally bland compared to a lot of the previous events, since it basically operates the same way as the infamous Steam event, with the racing where you cheer the teams on, and you know the one.
The one we just had with the dog getting artificial slowdown.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, so it fundamentally works like that. You basically cheer for the team that of servants that you like, as they race across the landscape and get involved in, typical Kaldea hijinks. Interestingly enough, it worked the opposite way around to what the reputations are. The reputation is that Japan server typically acts for love of character, and North America server acts for optimal gameplay. That's the traditional appraisal. However, in Japan, in every case, the optimal farming team, the team which had the optimal stages for farming currencies to buy things from the event shop, won in every case in the Japanese first run of the event. But in the North American one, actually it was character that won several of the times, even if it was not optimal for actually acquiring currency. So it seems that this time round it was the North America server that was more focused on the waifus than on the loot from the...
Well, the ratio of booby ladies is higher in this event than others that we've had recently, so it is understandable why the red-blooded American audience would be going for the waifus. Which really surprised me, because a lot of these rounds in this race were really clear-cut what were the best items to get. And I actually missed one item on one day because I think it was something like... I do not remember who it was. But on the second day, I think, I saw one item, the second or third day of the race. There was one item that was very clearly, going to be one that got gitted because it was really, really good. It was hard to, it was not hard to farm, but it was incredibly obnoxious. Like, oh, that one will definitely get it. I'll be sure to quickly do that a free quest for that race so that I get the reward before work. And they didn't win.
Well, that's because I think most people considered those rewards to be small potatoes. I think people are generally, they dismiss those because they're not farmable in a sense. Like, you aren't. It doesn't matter how many times you. It doesn't matter how much effort you put into winning that particular prize. In the end, what will ultimately happen is that you will get 5 or whatever, and that'll be it. That'll be all forever. So I think that people just aren't terribly concerned about that. So I just went through the event saying, you know what, I'm just going to do one of every quest at every stage. So no matter what wins, I'll get all 3 of the rewards. So that was my approach.
I would have taken that approach, but I just did not have enough time this week for really anything substantial. It was not anything exceptional going on at work, but we just had a whole lot of orders come in this week, and I just didn't have time to mess around with video games.
Yeah, it's been very busy at work for me as well. There's a lot of friction, I suppose you could say, at the moment, because the staffing situation is not really in a good way, and the management is reacting poorly, if at all. So, yeah, it's been rough at work. I've had to do quite a bit of overtime making sure that I'm covering for people who decide to, go into rebellion and refuse to work or whatever, which is a thing that actually seems to happen for some reason. But so it's been busy for me as well. But yeah, the event, as far as the gameplay interaction part of it, has been really weak compared to a lot of previous events. Like, you don't really feel as involved in it because you're just spamming farming quests the way you would do when the event is over. So it really doesn't feel like the event's happening. However, the actual there's actually quite a lot of story content, relatively speaking. I particularly enjoyed the introduction sequences where the teams were getting set up. I found those quite amusing. I feel really bad for Nitocris. I feel like every time she's involved in any story event, she gets the short end of the stick.
I would be full Team Nito on this, except for the other half of Nito's team.
Yeah, that must have been real internal conflict over that one. So you want to support Nitocris, but
is Fern not here?
Fern is not here, so you need to throttle yourself without Fern's assistance.
Yep. Saving it for next week anyway.
Anyway, yeah. So the stories were quite. The stories in terms of like the individual gags were quite amusing, but the overarching story, while we've come to the end of part one, has really not been explained precisely what's going on. And I don't read ahead on these things, so I don't know how the story goes. But there's a last minute intervention from a third party. However, this intervention does not seem to be of something that hasn't been predicted by Ishtar in advance. So we'll just have to wait and see how things go. But yeah, it's a bit of a weak event overall, but the writing is fun. So yeah, I'm sort of a bit exasperated though that having gotten to the end of part one of the event, the challenge quests have opened for part one of the event, which is what happens at the end of every event, except normally one challenge quest will open. This time there are 5, and I'm like, oh my goodness, do you know how long it takes me to clear these things with my roster? I don't have a lot of servants that can just power through these types of things. Like, most people will just go into the challenge quest and bring like Merlin, Gilgamesh, and then wipe it out with almost no effort whatsoever. I don't have that option, so it's yeah, I usually have to spend some time devising something that will work for me, or failing that, use full stall and then immediately regret it, because full stall is never a good idea, as you will be there all night. But yeah, I did a couple of 10 rolls on the general banner for part 1 servants and got nothing. Like, they were some of the worst 10 pulls that I've ever done. They're certainly up there. It was quite atrocious. It was very disappointing. But
lots of bronze link manipulators.
Yeah, and Mapo Tofu.
And the Shinji puppet.
And the Shinji puppet. Definitely Shinji puppets. There's nothing worth even mentioning. It was really bad pulls. Very disappointing. But it's to be expected from the malevolence of the gacha. The gacha is a cruel mistress. There's no getting around that. But yeah, what else? I don't really want to talk about the anime season. It's just depressingly bad so far. There's not really anything worth writing home about. I think I need to switch shows to something else, because most of them are not. Most of the ones I've looked at are just really, oh my goodness, I can't believe that this actually got made level of bad. I've played a little bit more of Super Neptunia RPG, which it continues to be Neptunia, is pretty much the most apt way of putting it, since that's pretty much all that it ever set out to do. And that's what I'm playing on stream today, except that I'm not attempting to progress the story because I want to actually be able to hear what's going on when I do. So mostly you're going to get to see me hitting fish, like, repeatedly, and collecting their guts. I have no idea what fish guts do, but I'm going to have a lot of them by the time this show is over, I'm sure. Yeah, the week for me just really has not been very, very productive in any particular way. It's been a bit of a non-entity, I suppose. Haven't accomplished anything. Don't feel very accomplished either. When I get home, I pretty much just veg out. I did watch the announcement stream for FGO as well, once more, in a language that I don't understand, so of limited productivity. But yeah, we got to see a teaser trailer for the Camelot movie, which I'm super looking forward to, but teaser trailers are always painful since they show you, well, it's a teaser. They show you just enough to remind you that the project exists, but not enough to satisfy your curiosity in any measure, which is the whole point.
And yeah, I remember when I was following Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah.
Oh, those teasers.
Yeah, so they've made a real big deal out of this anniversary. There was a lot of mostly merch. Like, I'm almost glad that I can't go to these events because I would come out bankrupt.
I have to handcuff you to your desk to stop you from buying stuff. Put your wallet on the other side of the room.
There's so many, like, different art books and things. Like they've I think it looked to me, based on what they were saying, and which I don't understand Japanese, so it was very difficult for me to discern what they may have been saying, but it seemed like they had managed to devise an entire art book, and quite a thick one at that, which is all based around animation and animatic material for the Camelot trailers. like that was it. That was the entire content was on the Camelot trailers, but they had an entire book about it. So yeah, lots and lots and lots of merch was shown off, but as far as the game was concerned, they showed off the new Summer Servants for Summer Part 1 Japan 2019, and they did not tell anybody what the classes were, but they are Carmilla and Osaka Behime and Musashi.
Foam Sword Musashi.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised at the brazenness of the design for Oki, because she basically looks like a Girls Frontline character. The whole point seems to be to steal fans from Girls Frontline.
Yeah, she has like 2 like automatic rifles in the very tiny picture I saw.
I'm sure they're water guns. They're always water guns.
I'm sure they're water guns, but they don't look like that in the itty bitty res picture I saw.
Yeah, well, they don't, even if you look at a high res one, they still don't look like water guns. But that's a shtick that they always do. Like the Dragunov that Maid Alter uses doesn't look like a water gun either, but it is, and you are assured of this.
Well, Helena can get a real water gun. I suddenly want to roll for Helena a little bit.
Squirtoria and Helena both have what are obviously water guns, so
yeah.
I'll probably end up rolling for Helena, because I would like to throw some at Maid Alter, throw some quartz at Maid Alter, but I do not under any circumstances want to get Raiko, despite her being arguably the best Buster Lancer in the game, because it's Raiko. Yeah. And those boobs creep me out, because this has to be a booby show with Fern not here.
Too much of a good thing.
Way too much.
I think those were the exact words that my female friends used when they first saw Raiko. When I showed her to them.
It's a reasonable appraisal.
They're like, that's too much.
Yep. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more details on that and seeing what the next one it's sort of become a running joke over the course of time that Okita doesn't have a swimsuit version. So I'm kind of interested to see if they will finally capitulate on that score, though I don't really expect it, because they wouldn't be able to continue the meme if they ever give Okita a swimsuit. They won't be able to continue the meme, so they can't.
The meme is free marketing. There's no way they'd give that up. You'd be silly to do that.
Yeah, but the thing is that it would also bring in a lot of money if they did give her one. So it's basically, do you share the sheep or do you kill the sheep? There's that type of question.
I think sheer is the correct answer from guessing at their revenue. I think you want to keep the free marketing going, since you don't need the cash right this sec.
Oh, well, the question is really like how much longer are they going to be running on this version of the game? Because it's still a huge open question as to what happens when they call it an end to Lost Belt 2. Like, how are they going to continue with the game after that point? What's the strategy going to be? Nobody knows that. So, yeah. And I've got to admit a certain amount of trepidation about it myself, because I would like to know what's going to happen in the end. Like there's optimistic contingent that think that people will, in a subsequent version of the game, get credited with their servant libraries, but yeah, I'm not gonna hold my breath, man. No, that doesn't make any sense. How do you make money off a model like that? But then again, actually completely screwing over the player base wouldn't go down well either. People are easily sucked into the gacha. There's no question about that. As somebody who has bought quartz themselves, but the fan bases can be very vindictive, especially in Japan. Like anybody who saw the debacle surrounding Pavati's art knows all about that.
Yeah, they were ruthless.
That was incredibly savage. But
Like,
the question is, though, I don't know that they didn't all roll for her anyway.
yeah, so if I was in Japan, what I would do is like give you free quartz in proportion to how many times you rolled the gacha, but I have no idea what their data analytics are like, what they track on the
They
server
track
end.
everything they track every single particle of that information.
Oh, do they assign it to players though?
Yes,
Like, does each
yes.
player
Everybody,
have their own value?
That's you can tell if you need customer support. Apparently, this is how it goes. If you need customer support, it tends to be proportional to how much of a whale you are. Like how much you have put into the system, how much you have contributed to their profits has an effect on your customer service.
Yeah, you and me are probably fine then. We're at least dolphins.
Yeah, we're definitely at least in that tier. But
I
yeah,
don't,
I think
after what I did on Monday, I might be moving up to at least what's the smallest whale.
I'm not quite sure. I don't have one of those charts handy. But
Yeah, like baby whale tier. As I might have done it dumb on a whim.
But yeah, I would not be completely upset, provided that I felt like it wasn't just a continuation on a new engine with a reset to make people rebuy things. Provided I didn't think that that was the case, I think I would probably be okay with a scenario where I was credited with quartz equivalent to all the quartz that I put in before.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be all the quartz to keep most customers happy.
Well, it needs to at least be enough to make me not feel like I was screwed. Because I mean, the value in a game, like people don't most people, not all people, most people don't actually consciously value their digital possessions. Maybe it's different now with kids who are obsessing over Fortnite and the sort of weird crap that you get there, but I think that most people, the experience of having and using it, the digital stuff that you get is sort of more the point than the having of it. So, like, that doesn't go away. The story experience doesn't go away. I'm not like you, Ari. I don't feel that I can skip story and watch it later. Like, I just can't think of it that way. I feel like I'm cheating myself out of the experience of having the fighting be integrated into correct places in the story.
I only have done that with recent events because of time crunch. It would take too much time to do whatever I wanted to do in my free time that wasn't FGO, and FGO at the same time, and still get enough of the event done to make suitable progress and get all the limited time stuff.
I can certainly understand that, because FGO during this latest spiel of events has eaten up pretty much 90% of my free time, even though I can do other things at the same time once I hit the farming phase, and that's made this particular event actually kind of convenient, because despite the fact that the gameplay is weak, it being weak means that you can switch off into farming mode from pretty much the word go. But yeah, it does consume a huge amount of free time, so it does pay to be judicious about how you invest that time, lest you run into difficulties. But
so I will get to the event stories that I've backlogged on. It started backlogging at the start of this year when the accounting shenanigans happened, and I just did not have enough free time to read all the story and play the game and do all my work and still do all the free time stuff I want to do in real life that isn't FGO. Like, there were not enough hours left at the end of the math.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day that's like, man, I'm glad my phone is a potato, because while it's unbelievably infuriating that my phone is a potato, if my phone was not a potato, I would probably also be playing Grand Blue Fantasy and also be playing Girls Frontline. So maybe it's a good thing that my phone is a potato.
Yes, toasters are sometimes very good for you. They make good toast sometimes, unless you're my toaster, where you always burn it, even on the lowest setting.
Oh, you've got one of those toasters, do you?
I have to manually press the cancel button.
Does it like have no thermostat or something? Does it just crank it all the way to the top permanently?
I have no idea what's wrong with it. I inherited it from the parents, and so it is an ancient toaster, like 30-year-old toaster, and so I have no clue what's wrong with it.
Anyway,
How do we get on toasters?
I don't know, but I don't really have much else to talk about because my week was so light. I can't really think of anything. I'm gonna try and build a strategy for getting back to some sort of normalcy, because it's been several weeks running now of me depleting a tiny amount of remaining free time on FGO and not really having time to do anything much else. Ultimately, I think that the long term route is made by a car, which I don't particularly want to do because it costs a huge amount of money to own and maintain one. But I waste a lot of my day on simple travel and having to conform to other schedules other than my own for that travel. Like, it's not just the travel, right? The travel, like, the difference in travel is like the bus takes 40 minutes to make the journey and a car takes 30. But the issue is conforming to somebody else's timetable.
Yeah,
so
you have to go by what the state or the bus company or whatever says is their time for stuff to roll out.
Yeah,
Makes it really hard to optimize your time.
yes.
And you don't think about the single digit minutes you save over the day just being in control of your own time management until they start adding up to hours.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I would be able to, like, if I took the back roads, like, our company driver knows a way to do the 30-minute journey in about 20 to 25 minutes. Like, if I took those roads, that would mean I could shave my travel time every day down to about 40 minutes, whereas currently it takes as much as an hour or more each way because of various timing constraints. And that's when things aren't running behind time. So, yeah, I think that's going to end up being the way that I need to go. But I need to go and get my license. I mean, I can drive, I'm just not licensed to do so, which is important if you don't want to be arrested.
What is what's the law like for getting your learner's permit, or not your learner's permit, but your driver's license?
It's
and the
absolute Wild West. Like, you whether or not you pass the exam depends entirely on the mood of the person examining you.
No, that's true here too. But do you have to do do you have to get like 100 hours on a learner's permit before you can even apply to get a driver's license?
They don't check your hours, just how long you've held it. And I've held my learner's license for like 12 years. So
have you actually gone practicing driving in that time?
Yeah. Like I said, I can drive. I'm not licensed to do so, and I'm a bit shaky on a few things like hill starts and a manual and that sort of thing. But I can get rid of most of that if I just buy an automatic. So
yeah, don't. It's not worth it to get a manual unless you're honestly doing like street racing or something. There's no reason for all the extra hassle.
There are some reasons if you live in New Zealand, because there's a lot of roads that are basically not maintained in various places. So if you get a job working technical services for like a council or something, where you're going to have to drive out to streams and things to take samples for analysis in the lab, then having a manual is helpful, because you might need to like go up a metalled road on a 35-degree incline or something.
Couldn't you just get like a automatic off-road truck and do that?
Generally speaking, that some of the roads are of sufficient dubiousness that you're better off in a manual generally, because you don't know what you might have to deal with.
I suppose I've heard
the gap between
stories from some truckers around here.
The gap between manuals and automatics is closed pretty considerably, to the point where it's almost not worthwhile. But when it comes to company fleets, they will still buy a manual for those jobs. So you will be expected to be able to drive a manual.
No, okay. Yeah, I have occasionally driven manuals. I don't like it though.
I don't really have a problem with it, but since I'm not very well practiced in any form of driving, I consider it to be sort of a distraction. But like there are some things that I feel like I'm better at in a manual. Like I feel like I have better control over the car generally, but it's also a lot more burden on the mind. So Yeah, I know that people have been driving them for years and years. They do everything automatically in a
Yeah,
manual.
well,
But
everything you do when you drive a car eventually becomes muscle memory and completely automatic if you do it enough.
yeah, but my issue is that I don't have a car, so I have to buy one, and that's a whole kettle of fish that I'm dreading opening because it can turn into a nightmare very easily. I have several acquaintances recently who have had to pay more money in repairs for their car that they just bought than they paid to begin with, which is not an uncommon story.
I can ask the resident car nut what she thinks of reliable cars. That's what I bought for. I nailed down the one friend I have who's a car nut and grilled her about what's the most reliable brands on the market, and went for that.
Yeah. Anyway, once I manage to sort that out, that should allow me to inject, like an hour or more additional time into my schedule every day.
Yeah.
So,
And you can also
and over a week it would be even more because when you've got a car, you need to make less trips to the supermarket than you do on foot because you can just load the car up with stuff.
And it's also faster to get to the supermarket.
Well, it's negligible. It's negligible because of the sheer amount of time you'll spend in the parking lot. Because it takes me about between 5 and 10 minutes to walk to the mall, but it takes between 5 and 10 minutes to find a parking spot at the mall if you're in a car. So the journey is not really the issue in that particular situation.
Yeah, I know over here, you don't ever want to mess with the parking lot if you don't have to. So I always park as far away as humanly possible from the main cluster of cars without being in the back of the lot, and just accept the fact that I'm going to have to take about 20 extra steps to get to my car. It saves so much time.
Yeah, the thing is that the only place to park is like in the main mall parking lots at the moment because Riccarton Road, which is the main road in my suburb, is notorious for a whole pile of different things, including toxicity. And I mean that in the literal sense, not in any figurative sense, because the amount of lead on that road is spectacular, because a lot of people spend a lot of time on it not moving very fast. But it's also permanently under roadworks. Like some part of it will be under roadworks all the time. So there's no parking anywhere near the roads. The only real place to park is in parking lots associated with malls. So they're always packed all the time. I went for a haircut this week past, and being the sort of person I am, I went at like 8:30 in the evening because there's no queue. But so that means I'm at the mall at 8:30 on Thursday night, and the parking lot is still full. So yeah.
Great. You got to get there early. People stay up late. They won't ever get up early.
I can't get up early. I'm constitutionally incapable of being awake before about noon. I sleepwalk through the first half of the day.
I am not a morning person, contrary to what many people would tell you if they knew me in real life. And the reason I get up as early as I do is because I'm not a morning person. And I completely rejigged my whole sleep schedule to accommodate it.
Yeah, even if I've had plenty of sleep, I still find mornings very rough. Like, if I sleep for 10 hours, I'll still have difficulty getting up in the morning. So, anyway, I don't really have anything pertinent to talk about. I would kind of like to play some more video games than I do, so that's all going to end up being part of the long-term sort everything out plan. And that will probably...
you can do audiobooks too.
I guess that's true. But especially since I've got a reasonably long commute, I'll be able to actually take a chunk out of the story. Yeah, I don't know. That's a project that will probably get relegated to the back end of the year, because what I think I'll probably do is maybe around Christmas, I'll visit my family, commandeer their car, basically crash course myself, hopefully not literally, back to, where I was the last time I drove regularly, and then do the exam, hopefully pass the exam, and get all that done while I'm on holiday, and I've got, parents handy to do, mandatory accompaniment or whatever during whatever times of day I have to practice, and get that all sorted out, and then I can come back to the city down here and figure out how I'm going to buy a car, how I'm going to run a car, how I'm going to afford to run a car. Hopefully I won't lose my job because, things are unstable at work and the management doesn't seem to understand the level of instability that is actually taking place. But, yeah, that's another story. Anyway, your week.
I just, while we were talking about this, I had a Scrubs JD fantasy flash for a second there of teaching you how to drive a car.
I don't think I need that in my life.
I don't think I do either, because you were the angriest person in this fantasy of all time.
It runs in the family. Everyone on my mother's side of the family shouts at everything else on the road. Everything. Except my mother. My mother doesn't, but everybody else in her family does. I
am the only person in my family who has the relatively calm attitude of being on the road. The most I'll say in the car is, "Whoa, what are you doing, dude?" If somebody's doing something really stupid. I get more irrationally mad when people don't use their blinkers.
Oh, that's a real disease around here. The number of times I've been almost hit by a car because it didn't signal that it was turning, so I walked across the road and then it decided to turn anyway. Like, I've lost count at this point.
Yeah, folks, I don't care if you are on a isolated road in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have another car for 50 miles. Use your blinkers.
It's not hard.
It takes literally no extra time and almost no extra effort.
You don't even have to turn them off. It turns them off for you.
Yeah. Like in any automatic car with a modern system, it just auto flicks it off after you make the turn.
It's not even modern cars. Every car since like the 60s has done that.
Yeah, so what the heck are you people doing? Use your dang blinkers. Yeah, please don't become somebody that doesn't use the blinkers. I will fly down to New Zealand and start duct taping those things down for you whenever you make a turn.
Well, considering that I know that I have almost been hit by cars a number of times, I think that I'm probably immunized against that behavior.
It's the absolute worst when you're sitting at a turn at a three-way intersection, and you and the guy in front of you get to the intersection at the same time, and you're at right angles to each other, but you don't know if you both can go at the same time because the idiot ain't got his blinkers on, and so you both just stare at each other for 20 seconds.
And also, don't listen to any of Octail's advice on what condition you should be driving in.
Yeah, no. I guarantee. Me and Fern drive a lot more than Octail, and we say, don't drink and drive.
I've also, this is really weird. Why would you pick, of all things, that hill to die on?
I don't know. It's the one thing with Octail. In general, Octail has a lot of hot takes on stuff.
Yeah, but he's generally pretty level-headed on everything except his skill at driving.
Yeah, that is the one thing I will make fun of him forever on. So yeah, I guess we can move into my week for what it's worth. So, as I mentioned during Vol's week, and while we were tangenting about driving, I had a very busy week as well. There was not a real special reason for it. We just had a whole lot of orders finally break at the same time, and I had a lot of work to do. I have put myself in a position at work where there is a crap ton of responsibility on my plate, and stuff just needs to get done. So I was busy working literally all week, and had like 4 hours a day of free time to myself with generous budgeting. So I wanted to play more CrossCode, but I wanted to wait until I had a chunk of time to sit down and really play it, because it's a big meaty game, and I'm gonna forget where I've been and what I've done in it because there's so much stuff to do in the game. So instead of doing that, I took a recommendation from a friend while I was complaining about not having enough free time to play CrossCode. He's like, "Oh, you should play The Messenger." I'm like, "Oh, that ninja game?" He's like, Yeah. It's totally a Metroidvania, just like all those Hollow Knights and other games you like. and he said Hollow Knight's plural in almost that exact tone.
So why did you think that was good advice to take?
I don't know. It was like, all right, it'll at least be something to talk to people about, I guess, since I have a friend who's played it. So now, before I start this discussion, I want to inform the audience that the crux of my argument that I'm going to make at the end of this is, if you name a subgenre after an existing game series, you're doing it wrong. And it doesn't help anybody. It in fact makes everything terrible forever. Because it makes people not understand what the heck you're talking about. So, The Messenger, I play it, and I'll give you a play-by-play of the general experience I had playing this game for as the hours went by. It's about an 8-hour game. 8 to 10 hours to 100%. So, the first whole third of the game, the first hour I'm playing, okay, it's Ninja Gaiden-esque. Okay, I'm not sure how you make a exploration platform out of this, but okay, sure, we'll do it. Wait, these are linear levels. Wait, this is just Ninja Gaiden with upgrades. This is literally NES Ninja Gaiden with upgrades and better level design. That's fine, and some of the characters here are pretty funny, and it's an interesting thing, but this is not at all what was sold to me. So, we progress onwards. And this opinion remains consistent several levels through the game until you get to about a third the way through the game. And then all of a sudden, we have a bit shift from 8-bit to 16-bit. I'm like, okay, now we're playing NES Ninja Gaiden on the SNES. Okay. But it's still Ninja Gaiden. And for about a fourth of the game, after that, you play through SNES Ninja Gaiden. And then the game map opens up, and this scroll that the ninja has been carrying, and he's been sent to deliver across time and space, it's a map. And the people that are like, you were tasked to deliver this message, you never opened a scroll? It's a map, you doofus. And so he opens the scroll up, and now you can go around the map and open quick travel stations and teleport to old levels and go to hidden areas and flip between 8-bit and 16-bit to get to hidden places you can't reach in one or the other. And now it's a proper sort of exploration platformer, though it still does have a stage select, though it doesn't do it as bad as, like, I think Half Genie Hero did it, where you literally had to go to a menu and select the stage. It's more akin to Metroid Fusion, where each area was its own level, but was connected to various other levels, and they would just load them separately. So it got there for like the last bit of the game, but for the entire first half of the game, you're just playing NES Ninja Gaiden. Now, that said, the game is much better than NES Ninja Gaiden for a lot of reasons. Number one, the movement options that you get as you progress through the game make jumping and slashing way more interesting. The level designs, while they can be challenging, are not designed to just troll you and take your non-existent quarters, because Ninja Gaiden was made in the transition between arcade and home console. So the level design is much more fair, although this allows them to get pretty creative with some challenges they expect you to fail quite a few times on your first time doing them. And yeah, it's in general very fun. The main movement mechanic in this game that you start with is called the Cloud Step. And the way this works, if you attack an enemy or an enemy's projectile after you get it's a real cheap early upgrade to attack enemy projectiles and make them disappear. If you hit a projectile or an enemy while in the air, a little cloud nimbus will form under your feet, and you can jump again. And so this is your main movement option for the game, and that's a fun enough way to get it going. And then you get upgrades like you can cling to walls and climb up and down walls, and you get a little short range grappling hook you can zip horizontal directions across, so you can bounce from wall to wall with it and stuff. And overall, it's a pretty good game. It's it is an indie darling. It's got a lot of hype from people. I don't think it's as good as the critics make it out to be, as usual with these indie darlings. But
Are
this
they ever?
one, yeah, no. But it was. I felt like I got my $20 worth for the 8 hours I played. Um, it it was genuinely funny in some places too. A lot of the game has very dense writing, but it's 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 like I'm not sure how to really phrase the way the writing's done. But you go into this game and the first like whole level is played serious Ninja Gaiden story, simple NES story. The Demon King shows up, he's attacking the world. You need to take this message to the top of the tower to give it to the dude who's going to fulfill the prophecy and kill the Demon King. Okay. Demon King shows up, burns down your ninja village, and you're running through the world. You're off to the autumn forest or whatever. And then the second you get out of that level, you find the shopkeeper. And the shopkeeper totally derails anything that made this game serious at all the second he shows up. The shopkeeper is the funniest character in the game and the best character in the game. And it's just this blue dude in a blue robe with red eyes who runs a shop and sells you upgrades to your health and gives you more shurikens to throw and stuff like that. And he will do stuff the whole time. Like you can go in there and you can have a chat with him, you can ask him about the area, and he'll basically say, in the autumn area there's leaves and stuff. And you can in every single area you can ask him to tell you a story, and he will tell you some totally like grade school philosophy moral. The moral of the story is people are stupid. Random tangent story about some piece of garbage that he has thought up on the spot. And he acknowledges that he doesn't have a clue about how to weave a moral into a story or what basic philosophy is. He says it explicitly, but he'll try to tell you a story. And you can do this in every single level, and they get increasingly ridiculous as time goes on. There's one level where he just is like, I'm too tired right now, man, and just takes a nap on his desk.
I see.
So
are you trying to imply that the tone of the story is generally pretty serious, and then there's this guy?
No. As soon as the shopkeeper shows up, everything goes to Looneyville.
Okay, so it's sort of like has its serious face on up until that point.
Yeah, up until the end of the first level, and then the serious face falls off, and it was just a mask. We're in Looney Tunes the whole way through. You're like riding on a dragon named Manfred. For a random horizontal shooter section,
Are you shoot fire trying to say something about people named Manfred?
Well, he wants to be a butler.
Well, with a name like that, I mean, I guess he is stereotypically inclined to it.
Well, yes, that's why he abandoned his old name and has long since forgotten it. He is now Manfred and wishes to apprentice to be a butler. And you're riding on a dragon fighting a clockwork robot who is also a butler at the end of his last level.
I see.
Yeah, no, we're in full Looney Tunes after the first level. It lures you in like with this standard NES serious business story, and then it's total Looney Tunes. The shopkeeper is actually part of the group that owns the Temple of Time at the end of the first third of the game, and one of the shopkeeper's buddies, just like, we need to do the thing, and the one called the Prophet is just like, yes. We must do the thingeth, and he speaks in is and us, and they're completely out of place, and has to be cryptic about everything. And this little one just keeps saying he wants to do the thing, and so doing the thing means they all DNA evolve into a giant hooded shopkeeper monster that you have to fight as a boss at the end to get the right to transition between 16-bit and 8-bit, and then they give you the ability to do that. Like, well, one of the early bosses that I like, he comes back in the DLC, is this spirit possessing a golem who's just digging, apparently. But by all accounts, the dude's attacking you when you go into his room, so you have to break his golem. And he gets really upset with you after his boss fight. He's like, what'd you break my golem for, man? I was just digging. Like, no, you were attacking me, dog. He's like, no, I wasn't. I was just digging. And the ninja just goes, my bad, man. And they just trade my bads akin to the... And don't worry about it. It's akin to the bro-off from Tales of the Borderlands for about at least 10 dialogue boxes.
I see. Is there some story in here somewhere?
There is, and it's actually fairly coherent, but I won't spoil it for people since the game's fairly short. It does have a serious story in there at the very end. They dump it on you in a 20 like and like this 10-minute unskippable cutscene of of 16-bit CGs where they just dump the whole plot on you at the very end of the game. There's a coherent story there, so I won't spoil it. I don't think it's very good. In fact, the ending achievement you get for beating the game is I like the fake ending better.
I see.
And the DLC is you go to a alternate timeline and you get to go to a tropical island, and the last boss is you and all the messenger, and all your shopkeeper buddies DNA digivolve into the final boss you fought at the end of the first third of the game, and you play Mike Tyson's Punch Out with a big giant demon who's quoting "The devil went down to Georgia" the whole time.
What?
Yeah, the game genre changes again to Mike Tyson's Punch Out for that one boss fight.
I see.
No, you don't. This is a game that is worth experiencing, I think, but it is not anywhere close to any of my top games of the year. Even for the year it came out. Like, people are saying this is the greatest indie game this year. I'm like, nah, dogs. Like, it just ain't that good. But it's worth $20, I would say. It's not so hard that you're going to get frustrated. And if you're not good at the exploration platformer bits, you can just go farm enough of the equivalent of Mario coins, time shards in this game, and give them to the shopkeeper, and he'll decipher his prophet buddy's cryptic nonsense and just write down on your map where the thing he was telling you to go find was. So yeah. It's a good game. I recommend checking it out if any of that sounds like it's caught your interest. It's good for 8 to 12 hours, depending on how able you are not to get lost.
Well, what is the overall difficulty of the game as played as opposed to as navigated?
Somewhere between what I would call normal and hard for a standard difficulty curve. Not quite hard, but definitely nowhere near the super you hate yourself levels of extreme. Definitely not all the way to hard, but a little bit harder than normal for most other games on a standard difficulty curve. So, yeah, that's about where I would place it. So yeah, that is The Messenger. And I really stretched that out because there really ain't a whole lot to talk about in the game that doesn't involve just spoiling everything. So, yeah, I think that's where we'll end The Messenger. I don't really have very much else. I've got CrossCode open right now because it's the weekend, but I have not made much progress in it this week because I've been just really, really busy. I just have not had the time to sit down and play Vidya. It's this thing about adulting, man. It sucks.
Yeah, it really doesn't seem to have been worth the effort of growing up.
No. Can we go back to college?
Yeah, I don't remember having to take responsibility for anything there.
Yeah. But now that I am an adult, I'm going to complain about it all the dang time and still feel compelled to steal as much responsibility at my workplace as humanly possible because I don't trust other people more than I hate having the responsibility. So,
yeah, I'm sort of gradually drifting into that position myself. It's not because I want all this extra work or anything like that, but if I leave it to somebody else, they won't do it right.
Yeah, it's all good and well for companies to promote team synergy and trust. No, that is not how the real world works. That is a facade that you put up as a corporation, and nobody in your company actually believes it. Anybody that's worth their paycheck knows nothing's getting done unless they do it themselves.
Yeah, the thing is that what I've learned though, because we have more employees at my workplace than you have at yours, so we have a few people like that. The problem is that if you have if the ratio is off, those people burn out and leave.
Yeah. I am effectively, I have a monopoly on this mindset right now at my work because we're such a small company. So what this unfortunately means is I wind up doing everything, but it also means I make all the say in anything that has to do with money or sales. So I write their paychecks now, quite literally.
Yeah, I mean we've had a lot of people leave simply because they had to take on a lot of responsibility to keep things running, and instead of that making things better, the upper management just saw that as an opportunity to pile more problems on. So
Yeah, like, oh, you don't need this extra staff then. No, I would quite like to have some free time when they actually do no, they're gonna go, okay.
yeah,
Not gonna hire a replacement? Oh, okay.
that's quite literally what has happened in several instances, and I don't know if it's just them cutting corners or if they're actually that ignorant. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I've been
I think
drafted
it's a
in.
combination of both.
I've been drafted into a team to try and address some of these problems. At a certain amount of protestation from some other people for reasons that aren't clear to me yet. But yeah, I'm going to do my best to try and grind some of these problems out, because there seems to be a lack of willpower behind most of it, to be honest.
Yeah, when I am in the office and sitting down at my desk, it's work time. And I don't want anybody to distract me from work time.
I'm pretty sure there are people at my work who come to eat lunch.
Yeah, like this mentality that you and me have is apparently wrong because we both agree on it. Because the rest of the world doesn't do it.
Yeah, and the thing is that the rest of the world doesn't do it, and they get their paycheck just the same, which means that we are definitely wrong.
Yeah, like we are clearly in the wrong for taking the moral and personal growth high ground here. Like, do they just stagnate after college? Is this what happens to the normal population? They get a job to just have their paycheck, and that's just where their life ends. They have no drive to do anything.
I don't know, normies, man. I don't know. I think that we're sort of odd ducks in that we don't have the sort of drive that turns us into, titans of industry, but nor are we so pathetic that we're willing to settle for shameful behavior in public. So
I'll do all kinds of embarrassingly shameful things in public.
Well, but
when I say free time.
Well, when I say shameful behavior, I mean failure to live up to the commitments that you made for yourself.
Yeah, it's not achieving a goal I set for myself is not an option. Period. If I say I'm going to do something, even if just to myself, it's getting done. Like, I will get you your dang DNA Twister review. I just didn't give you a time frame on it.
And you did.
I did.
So it's a suitably popular DNA Twister review on YouTube.
Probably one of like two.
Because nobody else is mad enough to play through it.
Yeah, no, not doing that again. Played through Literature Club eventually. Got around to it, said I would. Took 2 years. If I don't give you a time frame for something, I will still keep the promise. You just don't have a clue when it's going to happen. It's probably going to be multiple years down the line. So, yeah, it is really weird in real life because we're both in this situation at work where we are forced to take responsibility because if we don't, we feel like everything else is going to fall apart. And a lot of times at work, I don't know if you had this, but I have this thing in my head where I go, am I just insane? Should I be trusting these people? Do they actually do more work than I give them credit for? And then they disappoint me the second I start thinking that.
Yeah, I tend to have that experience as well. There's still some people that I'm in the dark about how much work they actually do, but anytime I've actually had the opportunity to take a close look at somebody that I suspect of not doing much work, I've found that it's actually much worse than I expected.
Yeah, like if you actually look into these people, even if you temper your standards and bring it down to normie levels where they just do what they're told, they still disappoint you. It's a thing I found, especially out of like in high school when I was working. It wasn't this bad. In retail, you're on the floor of the store, and you have a manager there, and they're making sure you're doing something and earning your paycheck the whole time because they have the ability to oversee that stuff. And in a work environment, in an office environment, that is not the case. People will just slack off and get lazy.
Yeah, that's been the major turning point that has started to cause things to go bad, was that at some point they decided that they didn't need a floor supervisor in the processing laboratory, and for a while the people who had been trained under the previous system where there was a floor supervisor present, they worked well, but as those people who had developed a work ethic under that environment moved on to other jobs or higher positions in the company, the people they brought in to replace them did not ever experience that. And so they just, they take every opportunity to shirk, basically.
Yeah. And I get needing mental breathers for a while, and maybe at least try to look like you're working, though. Like, keep your screen turned on to at least the right page and just rest for a sec. That happens. If you when you've had to hammer out 30 orders in a row during the week because nobody else will do it, that happens. Sometimes you just got to do that. You only got so much stamina in your brain to keep going before you need 5 minutes. But just when I ask you for the dang quote to send to somebody and you tell me you'll get it done, just give you a few minutes, and it's 3 hours later, and you haven't even gone on the website to check the prices yet on any of the parts that are listed, we got a problem. And I got a customer who's probably going to call me again in an hour and ask, where's that quote?
I think we may be tangenting at a little bit too great a length on this. Because, it's understandable, since the reason we don't have anything better to talk about is because of these very issues, but we got a show to do, man.
Yeah, we do. We can probably skip the break.
If you like.
Since you're running the stream today, and we're already just kind of winging this. We also don't have that much news to talk about. We have a few small things. So since you're doing the stream, I guess I will lead the topics and pull them up. So, all right. I'll save the happy one for the end because this is funny. So I'll save the interview for last because I want to end on a happy note after complaining about work for so long. So let's make fun of French bread. This is a small one.
Or rather, the total lack of naming sense.
Yeah, so I don't actually care about any announcements for Under Night and Birth that are announced with this new edition of the game coming out. I just want to make fun of what they named their game again. So, Under Night and Birth, for those that don't know, is a fighting game made by French Bread, the people that made Melty Blood, the only successful Nasuverse fighter. And they made their own IP after Nasu promised that they could make Melty Blood 2 after they gave him a demo of Scion, their original character. And they're like, this is how she'll look in HD, and we can totally make Melty Blood 2. He's like, yeah. As soon as I get Tsukihime 2 out, we'll totally launch them together, and we'll make tons of bucks. And then Tsukihime 2 never happened. And so they had an HD Scion model, and so they made a fighting game with her as the first character.
Don't worry, they can do a double release with the English version of Mahoyo.
Yeah. So, Under Night and Birth has a history of not having a naming convention for their iterations of the exact same game that make any sense whatsoever.
Well, maybe it does make sense. It's just like nobody understands what was written in the Zodiac Killer's ciphers, but that doesn't mean that there was nothing in there.
Yeah. So we have. Let me see if I can get a list. So, we have Under Night and Birth, the first one. Then
Which is already, for starters, is a name that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense in Japanese, so I have no idea what they were going for this. Just English sounded cool, I guess. So they went with the chuniest name they could find, and then for the first iteration of the game that was a separate release of the exact same game, it was Under Night and Birth EX Late. Okay. EX, that's a thing fighting games have done as a convention for iterations. Late. Okay. I don't know where you're going with this. Next one, EXE Late. Okay, we're a computer program now. French bread, what are you doing? Next iteration, EXE Late. Open bracket, lowercase st, close bracket.
Latest, I guess.
I guess. Nobody has a clue. And this edition, which has got everybody going, what the heck were they thinking? Under Night and Birth EXE : late, open bracket, CL lowercase, hyphen, lowercase r, close bracket.
Okay. What does that say?
Ooh.
You get a word out of that anywhere?
Late clear? It's gonna be called UNIB-CLR when it gets abbreviated. So I'm positive that's what it'll be. What'll be abbreviated as. So yeah, French Bread continues their inability to name things that they've had for their entire history, and I just wanted to make fun of them because we really don't have very much this week.
Yeah, the only news that I actually managed to catch up with was, oddly enough, WoW news.
Ugh, you're the only person that reminds me WoW exists on a monthly basis. About once a month, you'll mention it, and I'll be like, "Oh, right." WoW
Well, the
exists.
thing is that I enjoyed it once upon a time, and I want for it to be good, but it's not. That's the thing.
It's like watching your old grandpa with dementia, who is so long gone that he's not even really alive or in there anymore. What's left is just his brain firing random neurons. And you're just like, I hope he just dies already. This is what WoW is to me.
That's a very macabre example, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so let's see. We have a couple more articles, so... Oh, this one's actual news. Okay, so let's make fun of Crash Team Racing again. So, I take back any support I had for this game as a force of habit, not because there's microtransactions in the game, not because Activisioned, but because I do not support games from developers that break their promises. So regardless of the fact that I said the single player was good and do think it's good, and all the non-Activision Dawn stuff in the game is exactly like you would hope it would be, I'm going to tell you to avoid it because you can't trust the company. So, the story is, Crash Team Racing made a promise on the outset there would be no microtransactions, and there weren't for the first month, while their stupid event that I detailed about 4 weeks ago was running. Now there are. And the way they've done it is so stupid. So they have a shop that looks like the Fortnite shop with a featured item and a bunch of smaller items that rotate daily. And you can only buy what's on the featured list of stuff. You can't just go in the shop and spend your Wumpa coins on what you want. You gotta wait for it to come up in the lotto. Or the pit stop is what it's called. And you get these Wumpa coins that you spend to buy this stuff through racing and just playing the game normally. But the acquisition rate for these things is incredibly low. Like, I had to do like 100 races to buy all the, not 100 races, more like 75 races to buy all the new characters for the event. And races take 2 to 3 minutes per race, depending on the map. And the bigger maps can take as long as like 5 or 6. So you're going to be here a while grinding these Wumpa coins. And the amount you get is tailored to how long the track is, kind of, sort of. They have them broken into tier list. but this inevitably means matchmaking is going to throw, because you get the most online, is going to throw you into a map that is not efficient for Wumpa coin getting, because they're tiered in how many Wumpa coins they get by track length. So inevitably, you're going to get a track that is just a little bit over one tier, or a little bit under reaching the tier it should be, but is insanely long relative to the amount of Wumpa coins you get for it. And this happens way too often. There's a lot of tracks like that. And it just, it's a pain in the butt, because you have to race so dang much. And these events they have exclusive racers for the time they're available, but you have to do dailies. And
Dailies?
In a kart racer.
Ugh. Go to hell, games as a service.
Yeah. So they want you to do daily quests, weekly quests, event quests, which I detailed the one that annoyed me the most that I outright cheated on, and have no shame in saying I cheated on, where I just pulled the plug on my net adapter for come in every single place, 1st to 8th on the introductory, the easiest course in the game, in matchmaking, online. And if you pulled the plug on your router and plugged it back in real fast, it would reconnect you halfway through the match, and all the players would just be controlled by AI. So you just set the AI to easy and artificially engineer it so that you get the positions you need for that. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff they encourage with their dailies and stuff. Well, okay. They apparently listened to the players' complaints about how stupid this system was by just letting you buy the Wumpa coins.
Problem solved.
Yeah. Don't fix the game. Don't adjust the way the event works. Don't up the amount of Wumpa coins gotten per offline play. No. Just buy them. In a game where they promised no microtransaction. Yeah, screw you, Activision. So
they're not even trying.
You just know they're going to be so cynical about this, because the way their events work, they have limited time racers in them, like all the lady bandicoots, like all the trophy girls from the original game.
The idea of lady bandicoots is for some reason amusing to me.
I mean, not like Coco, who's kind of cute, and like just, this cute little anthropomorphized character that is not sexualized in any way. When I mean the ladies, I mean the bandicoots with human hair and boobies.
The pin-up bandicoots.
Yeah. All of them were in the last event. And so now, the next time that event rolls around, if you want to get all the booby bandicoots, you can give Activision money before the event runs out. Activision, what's wrong with you? Oh, this hacked me off when I heard this happen.
I'm not surprised though.
I'm not either.
It's not. It's it's something I heard about. Was that EA did their financials, and despite Anthem, they still turned a big profit because FIFA and Sims
and NBA, yes, FIFA, Sims, and NBA microtransactions made up like over 50% of their income, didn't it?
It's generally, yeah. Well, it's the idea I'm trying to get at here is that the Anthem was a ginormous black hole for money, and that's true, but the amount of money that they lost on it was trivial compared to the amount of money that they made through selling loot boxes.
It doesn't even ding their profits when you compare it to the FIFA money.
And like this is like the gaming industry black pill, basically.
I tell you what, a big reason Fern used to be the indie game guy, and the reason I've been drifting more and more towards indie games, and aside from the fact AAA game publishers don't make the genres I like anymore, they just aren't as cynical with this crap. Like The Messenger and Hollow Knight both put out their DLC for free. And you just feel like you can trust the publisher and or the developer when they self-publish like that. And they actually follow through on their promises. They have not got this huge miasma of wasted, burned goodwill from years of doing crap like this.
Yeah, but now I don't know. I hope somehow, somewhere, some why it will come back to bite them. But I don't know what will make it happen. I don't know what will tip things over the edge, or whether
Industry crash.
Well, I mean, the industry crash is the popular outcome, because ultimately it's what we want, right? Like, if the industry becomes so poisonous that there's no gaming left, then we want it to crash, because then there'll be a reset. But, you know, there is that dark future where it's just like nothing really crashes properly all the way, and it's like, you've seen Idiocracy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the civilization didn't end. It just got dumber and dumber and dumber.
Used energy drinks to water their crops.
Brondo, it's got what plants crave. But yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Like, that world in which, okay, so it's true that a crash is maybe what's needed, and that's one likely outcome, but is also the possibility that we will just continue to slide down the slope and find newer and newer depths, because the companies, they got too big to fail. Like, I feel like if they stay the course, if they never got any greedier than they are right now, which I'm not saying is what's going to happen, because the reason the crash model is popular is because it predicated on the companies continuing to grow in greed at roughly the same rate that they have been doing. But if they stopped growing in greed, I think that we would actually see a situation where we would devolve into Idiocracy in terms of gaming industry, because there would be no event that shook up how things were.
Yeah, and you know, I give a lot of credit to Octale for putting this stuff in the forefront of my mind, especially back when it was first happening and microtransactions were really starting to pick up pace. And it just, over time, having it in the forefront of my mind and being aware and knowing to be cynical of it really has come in handy. And aside from practically funding League of Legends, I haven't really dove that far into it.
Yeah, you still have that sin on your conscience. I just have to be careful not to use that as a justification for anything like buying quartz.
Yeah, no. But I even then, I don't think the justification I used was bad for why I spent money on League of Legends. I played that game for so many dang hours a week that you know, spending, you know, $100 every 6 months on skins didn't seem that bad. I'm going to be playing this game for 50 years or however long I played it. I don't know how old I am anymore. I don't know how long I played that game. It's all so long ago.
People still playing that? I presume people are still playing that.
Yeah, they're still having some kind of drama over there right now at Riot Games. Something sexism.
Oh, well, that's always the case.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's all up to the consumers, right? And what consumer groups leave. Like we fall into what the media would label as hardcore gamers is the label they would probably stick on us. And most of us have given up. Like we're not going to bend the knee to this stuff. But even then, in our group, how many people are going to put their money where their mouth is? Like we're going to get mad about it, and we see people in our clique and the same type of people as us that have played games of the same type for as long as we have, going, yeah, this is really bad. We're not going to buy these games. We're going to boycott.
Yeah, see, the thing is that boycotting almost never works. You need to do capitalism, basically. Boycotting is not capitalism. What you need to do is buy something else instead.
Yeah, you need to find a competing product. And yeah, it just depends. If capitalism is allowed to do its capitalism thing, I don't think it will stagnate to the point that we'll start seeing just idiocracy levels of stupid in the gaming industry and cynicism.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the reason why capitalism can bail you out of this is because of the dark side of capitalism, really. Because capitalism is basically an engine for turning human greed to the greater good. But ultimately, greed is still a vice. So capitalism isn't an unalloyed good. The situation, though, is that the theory would go that because it's trying to weaponize greed, ultimately that greed will accumulate to the detriment of the person being greedy. So it is predicated on the assumption that it won't be enough for EA and Activision to be making money hand over fist the way they currently are. They'll want more and more and more and more, and they'll get more and more ambitious, and eventually they will cross the line from being exploitative to being recklessly stupid.
Yeah.
Because currently they're exploiting people. They're exploiting people quite successfully.
And they're trying to push it. That we saw how bad they got burned with Battlefront.
Yeah,
Like
well,
that-
that was also, they mismanaged it as well as being greedy, because I think that Battlefront as a business proposition was very salvageable, but they didn't do it right. I think that if they'd done, the No Man's Sky thing, the Final Fantasy XIV thing, put it back on the workbench and then got it back out there as a sane product, then it would have been a roaring success. But they didn't do that.
They didn't do that because they're trying to normalize this kind of stuff. They want this kind of marketing and stream of revenue for game companies to become the norm. They want people to just accept it. And it just depends on how many groups get hacked off enough to just go buy something else.
Yeah. I don't know. There are a few, there are a few companies that once upon a time might have been independent enough of market trends to be able to go against the grain. Like Nintendo could have chosen to do that, and for a while it looked like they would, but in the end they just got on board. So, yeah. But I mean, you can see that they're all trying to follow suit with each other, right? It's just that this phenomenon is much more pernicious and therefore more obvious than the previous phenomenon, where like what we were seeing the most of was copycat games way back from starting with like the Doom clones and whatnot, where every game was the Doom engine with different skin over top or whatever.
Yeah.
All the way through to World of Warcraft's type of hotkey MMO clones, MOBA clones.
Yeah.
Nowadays, what's being cloned is the games as a service concept, where you release a product for full price and then continue to nickel and dime your customers to death. So,
well, if you're a games journalist, everything's a Souls clone.
I guess that's true. But yeah, this. I want to see it come to an end, but I'm not sure what it will take for that to happen. I'm not sure quite how bad things will get before there's a turning point where, like, not just a few people, but the bulk of people just no longer see it as a proposition. Like, it's just not something they want to be involved in. Like, I don't know what condition the Zoomer generation will be when they come of age and have to, work for their own money.
Well, I think the Zoomers are probably going to do fine in the political realm as far as their values and what they believe. I do not trust them at all in the economic sector of anything. They are completely incapable of managing money from what I've seen. Yeah. Now, they're all still young kids, and young kids can't manage money. But they seem to be doing it worse than I was when I was that young, and I was pretty bad at it.
I was not pretty bad at it. My parents drilled it into me. Like, I was not actually allowed to purchase anything, even with my own money, unless I could present basically all of the math involved in it.
Yeah, my parents weren't that bad. My dad, he at least drilled the concept into me: no credit cards. If you don't have the money for something, you don't buy it. Period. That's what he stuck in my head. So, and he taught me budgeting that I eventually quartered onto late high school, early college. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting in the gaming industry coming around as we continue to flail about on this show. This is an article you actually dug up. I don't think I've read it yet.
Well, at least tell me what the name of it is so that I can talk about it.
I'm trying to think how to say it. Ooblets dev mocks gamers for being angry at Epic Games Store exclusivity.
Okay, so Ooblets was an indie, a wannabe indie darling, basically. I can't remember if it was crowdfunded or not. I don't think it was, but I'm not sure offhand. I can't remember. I read the article a while back. But they decided to get on board the Epic Games train. But the thing is that the deal that they were offered by Epic was that Epic would fund, because Epic was a new platform, they decided to offer favourable deals like they have to a lot of people, and they basically offered up front a minimum number of sales in revenue. Up front. The problem is that their first pitch was at the outer limit of what they expected to make, what the developers expected to make to begin with. So they instantly took the deal, now have in pocket more the maximum amount of money they ever expected to make off the game at the end of its useful sales life, and have proceeded to basically dump all over their audience. So they came out basically with the announcement, we're moving to being an Epic exclusive, and they basically said everybody who doesn't like Epic is an entitled man baby, and you all suck, and you should be worried about global warming, not about what platform your games are on. I'm not exaggerating either. They literally said that. Human rights
abuses, the new Twitter desktop UI, the last season of Game of Thrones.
To be fair, the new Twitter desktop UI is garbage. But
wait! No, they take it back. The last two were jokes. Please don't yell at people about them.
I would like to yell at people over the Twitter desktop UI. It's complete rubbish. I can barely navigate now.
I don't Twitter. How do you Twitter?
I don't know anymore. Because I can't tell how to use the UI. But, it's... The thing is, this seems like a really, really, really dumb approach if what you're trying to do is build a library with a reputation. Because the difference between a bad game and a good game, and the difference between a good game and a great game, usually happens in like the last 10% of the development cycle, where they take their product and they polish it.
Where you realize you're Team Cherry and not whoever these guys are.
If you have not hit that stage yet, or are coming into that stage, and then suddenly you get all of the money that you were ever intending to make just given to you up front in exchange for the product, how much do you care about your polishing at that point?
Like, no, you write all your employees' paychecks for 6 months and not have to worry about your overhead. Like, why do you care?
Like, it's Mark Kern commented on this to that particular effect, and he said that the 3 months before launch, Diablo 2 was an unreleasable disaster. Like, it was just completely incoherent. Well, that's what he implied. He said, you may think that the development cycle is linear, but you should have seen the state that Diablo 2 was in 3 months before release. So the implication there is that it was pretty much a disaster, and it was that last 3 months of intensive polish that got it to be the smash hit game that it turned out to be.
Well, it's the same general project idea that most projects follow, right? You build the skeleton, it's janky and doesn't really work, and you get the ideas on how to make it functional and pretty as you're building around the framework of what you got.
But in the case of Diablo 2, they're 3 months out from release, the game is a mess, and everybody at the company, this is old Blizzard, remember, old school Blizzard, everybody in the company has skin in the game, and their reimbursement depends on the royalties that they get. Like, they have to sell the game, and the residuals that come back on game profit pays the paychecks directly of the people developing the game.
Yeah.
Like, what and how much money they make from their wages depends on how good the game is. So you can bet your bottom dollar that they polish their little hearts out trying to get that game up to scratch.
I don't care if you in a fantasy world are the greatest, most benevolent towards the gamers, project lead, project designer of all time for a game, and you've come up with this great concept and you're directing it, you have to pay employees. And if employees suddenly get told it doesn't matter what happens anymore, they're getting their paychecks, they ain't gonna give a crap.
Yeah, like even if they are a team that are all pulled together, they're all totally behind the vision, etc., etc. Like their heart's not going to be in it anymore. Like they can do that extra hour in the office, or they can go home and chill. Like which one do you think they're going to pick?
Like, are they going to cancel?
Go on.
Oh, are they going to cancel their plans to go to the movies if the game's already going to get them money and they don't have to do anything? No.
But I mean, let's be fair. You can't fault them for that either, can you? Because they've got families to take care of. Maybe they want to go home and spend time with their kids when they've been crunching for the last 3 months.
Yeah, if they're just an employee especially if they're an employee with no investment in the game, like, other than just do a good job, otherwise you won't get a paycheck. If they suddenly don't have to do a good job anymore, there's more important things they can be spending their time on in their life. If their focus is their personal life, yeah, you got kids to raise. You got wives who need attention. You got, free time to actually do stuff. Remember what games are like since you couldn't play them while you were in crunch time.
Yeah, so what I'm getting at here is that this is just another one of those ways where the sort of ignorant, bumbling attempts to build a platform that Epic is involved in are quite literally making the games industry worse in a direct fashion. By removing the risk. They're removing the risk from these small developers. These small developers will not go on to make a game of any consequence. Like, even if this one is good, the next one, like, they'll go into it with the expectations that things will be as cruisy at the end of the project. Because it was the first time round. No, the next time they try and do this, and they realise that there's no sugar daddy coming with money this time, that it'll be over. They'll have a big fight in the company, and everybody will go their separate ways. That's the way this stuff goes in the real world.
You're going to get a bunch of employees that establish their work cycle at the end of the last project, and will take that work cycle into the next project. And if that's not their A game when they're building the foundation of the game, it's going to suck.
Yeah, so this is I raise it partly because it's another one of those disgusting and increasingly numerous examples of games developers who think that they don't need their audience anymore. And in this case, it's because they literally don't need their audience anymore. But it's also because this is an example of how Epic is making gaming worse.
Well, I think Epic is robbing us of potentially good games doing this. At the end of the day, I don't see this working out for Epic at all from a business standpoint.
Oh, long term it won't, but they're going to continue doing as much damage to the industry as possible as long as they think it is going to work out.
Yeah, it's just giving people this radical shift in focus on a project that could have established them and built them up as a good developer. Like this same bunch of crazy Twitter idiots that run this company. Like, despite what they are saying right now on Twitter, they had the potential, if they had to put in the work and had a strong work ethic and learn some discipline making this game and really knuckle down and connect with their community to be sure they got those sales, they could have been a good company, even if they are Twitter idiots. But because Epic just wrote them a free check, they're just that company's done.
You don't get great people out of a free ride, generally speaking. It's just not how it works.
No. Hard times breed strong men. Like that. There's a circular logic loop with that.
Yeah, I don't remember how it goes though.
But yeah, if you are forced to work hard to produce something of quality, you will come out as a better person and have more people like you.
Yeah, there really is no such thing as a free lunch. When it looks like you have received a free lunch, no strings attached, it just means you haven't seen the cost yet. And the cost for these people may in fact be their careers.
Yeah, like they have decided they do not need the experience or skills they would have gotten building this game the proper way. So, who knows? But yeah, and honestly, I think all this stems from Twitter culture. This whole idea of you don't need your customers anymore. The fact that you would even have the gall to do this if you're getting a free ride. it's all this 180 character culture. Hawk of garbage. Everybody needs to have their hot take out there. They're addicted to having people see what they say and respond to it.
Yeah, and that has also given people a severely damaged idea of the sort of things that are acceptable to say to other people.
Yeah, and
like just generally speaking, society's rude now. They're just rude.
Well, it was always rude in real life, but you would laugh about it.
No, but there was a type of rude that was different. Like it's not like before when you were rude to someone, it was either because you really really didn't like them, or it was the sort of crudity which was sort of the casual necessities of rapid communication. The people that live on Twitter, they spend their time thinking of ways to hurt people.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like the focus is on cruelty. It's not on efficiency. In the real world, normally rudeness is a callous lack of consideration based on a desire to do things quickly. It's usually for selfish reasons. Sure, that's great, but it's not actually normally malevolent cruelty. But in the Twitterverse, people who say mean things to other people have often set out with the goal of finding the thing that cuts the most and saying that.
Yeah, and it's all to do with that stupid little like and retweet button and the inability to show dislikes, because people have replaced, and this is my completely off the wall opinion, I don't have any data to back this up, but like they have replaced genuine human connection and appreciation and interaction with that stupid little heart or that stupid little retweet or that stupid little thumbs up. And they can't see anybody disagreeing with them, so they don't know if what they said just hacked off a lot of people and maybe they shouldn't say it again. They think everything they do is being praised.
Yeah,
and so they develop God complexes almost.
Socially, people have been trying to develop, like not on a conscious way, but you see it emerging, like the concept of getting ratioed. Have you heard that one?
Yeah. Like you get more comments than you get likes or something, and
yeah, more comments than retweets is the way it's normally characterized. That means that you got a reaction, but it wasn't a positive one. So yeah, like that's I feel like that's sort of like the intrinsic struggling attempts of Twitter culture to try and come up with a substitute for the inability to dislike, but it's not sufficient. It's too abstract, too diffuse to actually have that effect in practice.
It is not something that people without conscious thought will even notice. It's you need to be thinking to look for it. And I notice it on occasion when I see somebody say something really stupid. I'll look at their ratio of comments to likes or whatever, and to get a good view of what's going on, because it's a lot easier to click a like button than it is to type out a full comment. So most people will have more likes than comments. But yeah, I don't know how you can fight back in a system that does not allow you to express disapproval of anybody's opinion. You only have positive feedback and reinforcement from the Twitter UI, basically. And they deliberately did not include a dislike button so that could happen, and it gets people stuck in this psychological loop of, oh, people definitely want to hear what I have to say because they're only telling me that they want to hear more. You don't ever get the feedback, what I just said was really stupid and a whole lot of people are mad at me right now. There's no shame in doing anything because it's not displayed anywhere.
Yeah. Well, apparently that's the world we live in now.
Man, can we go to Mars?
There's been a lot of memes about that specifically. In fact,
I'm not aware of them. So,
not recently, but it was a meme for a while that.
The Elon Musk thing.
Yeah, because progressivism has basically taken over this world that we're going to go and start a proper society on Mars.
Yeah, like Mars has much better people right now. So yeah, let's go to the next thing, I think. So, next topic. Ever since Monty passed away, I have enjoyed throwing Rooster Teeth under the bus whenever I get the opportunity. and they did the dumbest dumb possible.
Dumber than when they unilaterally fired Vic for no reason.
Well, they were actually the smartest of all the companies involved because they didn't say very much. They just let him go because there was a stink around him, from what we can tell.
They're staff for all SJWs.
Oh yeah, we
know.
We know, but their public statements have been fairly intelligent, as in they don't exist.
As they didn't immediately indict themselves for slander, for libel.
Yeah, or tortious interference, or goodness knows what else. Unless you're Shannon McCormick, then you call you get Law Twitter involved, and you tell Tug to come fight you IRL.
Do these people not realize, like, this is how you can tell someone's not a real geek, is that they think that Fight Me IRL is something that you can say with sincerity and not get laughed at?
Yeah. So, oh my goodness. So what did they do this time? Well, there's 3 things that have happened at Rooster Teeth lately, and they're all stem from the first thing. They have a subscription service on their website called First, and this has gone through many, many names. It used to just be you were a subscriber or a member, and you would get their content up to 6 months early. It's now a year early, and you would get exclusive content. You would get behind-the-scenes stuff. You would, back when I was a subscriber to Rooster Teeth, you could download the videos directly from their server without any download limits.
I remember when that. I do remember when that was a big thing. That was a big deal, being able to download stuff, because things on YouTube were basically in prison.
Yeah,
like you had no idea how to get a hold of them, and if you did, it was usually founded on some weird codec that nobody had any idea how to play.
Yeah, there was no rip the file directly from YouTube servers as a local copy. That didn't exist. Being able to just download an episode right when it came out, and all the behind-the-scenes stuff in glorious 720p, that was $10 a month for all that stuff. It was a little expensive, but I watched a lot of Red vs. Blue at the time. I was still a fan of Halo when I was a subscriber, and that was fine. Actually, I think it was cheaper. It was like $6 a month or something like that. But yeah, they have decided that those grandfathered in pricing, because it used to be, if you're like me and you had been a consistent, now I am not a consistent subscriber to Rooster Teeth, obviously, but if I had carried over that $6 to $10 subscription all the way until now, my sub would still be $6 to $10 a month. Like, they would grandfather in your old membership prices, which is not too uncommon in U.S. companies. It's not exceptionally common, but it is a practice that is,
in some
that is around
countries,
the US.
there are laws that almost obligate it because of the way the contract may have been originally written.
Yeah. So it's a fairly common thing in the U.S. But yeah, they're not honoring grandfathered prices anymore. So that hacked a lot of people off. And then they're increasing the prices on their membership subscription by 60% of whatever the heck it was.
Are they releasing any, like, press statement for why they think it's justified to do this?
We'll get to the statements we do have, or the statement that I'm aware of. I don't think they've said anything about the backlash. In response to this, the Ruby Reddit had 5 moderators step down.
But the thing is that this by itself, I don't think is enough for that. I think they were obviously...
Yeah, they were fed up with the way Rooster Teeth was handling the show and the way the show was being directed and managed to begin with. But having to pay more for a show they were getting disinterested in was the straw that broke the camel's back. And was really what set the fire going, that this is, oh my goodness, what are they doing, for the people that didn't know. So, and then, the only statement I found about this was in a video by Hirohei, talking about, and it's on YouTube, you can go dig it up if you want, how a forum administrator, so he works at Rooster Teeth, for the Ruby forums, said, if you can't pay the new pricing, you need to manage your finances better.
It's not about managing finances, it's about deciding if it's a good value proposition. If you've done, like, 0th level marketing, you know that.
You don't even need zero level marketing. If you live in any capitalist country, you know this. But no. These people are so blind to their own hypocrisy that I bet he has no idea that deciding not to buy the Corvette that's suddenly got a 30% price hike and instead getting, the Lexus or whatever he has, that's totally not comparable. Like, what? Resources are a thing people have to choose to spend. If you're not offering a quality product that's equal to the price you're asking, people are going to go buy something else.
Well, the thing is, I think that it's actually sort of it's sort of weirdly classist, right? Because what they're effectively implying is that, oh, I'm so wealthy, I don't need to worry about these sorts of things. Like, that sort of thing sticks in a lot of people's craw. It's like, you're basically bragging about how much money you have, aren't you?
Yeah, so this went up like a lead balloon, and the entire Rooster Teeth community is in outrage. And as far as I know, they have not addressed it because this is not pretty for them. And there's now, from a leak inside the company to Hirohei, apparently subs have dropped by 30% since this happened.
That's not nothing, man.
No. All their people that were grandfathered in have not resubbed, basically. That entire group just said, nah.
Well, they've just broken an agreement.
Yeah. Like, you just broke 10 plus years of goodwill. And plenty of people said the content ain't good enough to justify increasing the price and re-upping the sub, and just said, nah. So, they may actually lose money raising prices like this. Which has gotta hurt for the little AT&T owned company that once upon a time was a small indie machinima studio in Texas.
Did they start before we even had the word machinima?
Yeah. Machinima was first applied to Red vs. Blue, as far as I remember. I think they're the ones that helped, or they were part of the reason it became a term. I don't know the whole history off the top of my head, but I think it's something like that. So, pioneers of the machinima industry. A small indie group, a bunch of people in, I think it was Bernie Burns' garage or something.
Ultimately, this just seems like they got a fat head, basically.
Yeah, and they went full corporate. They got eaten up by AT&T, and they just, with this move, have flushed all the remaining community goodwill they'd been burning the past several years right down the tube. So that's a thing, and I couldn't be happier, to be completely honest. Couldn't happen to a nicer group of jackasses.
Yeah, I think that there's, in all likelihood, I think that things have probably been pretty rough for them ever since Monty died, really, because he had more talent than the rest of them put together, and that there's no way to just make up for that. They would have been trying, and they've had their successes and their failures in the meantime, but they didn't have anything that was uniquely them anymore. Because Red vs. Blue's popularity flagged a long time ago, and Monty's distinctive choreography was what kept people consuming their products. What else do they have other than their, loser-level comedy?
Yeah, they had the Let's Play channel that's actually called Let's Play because they were pretty early on the scene, and they do mostly Minecraft stuff.
But everybody does Minecraft Let's Plays. That market is clogged.
Yeah, they just keep it around because they've been doing it for so long it still makes money because they were one of the first. They're not actually any good. And the people in it are some of the most annoying pricks at the company. The only person whose content I would individually watch as a content creator aside from Monty's stuff at Rooster Teeth was Joel, the voice of Caboose. And that guy is genuinely funny. I love Joel. He is the only one that I would ever watch, and he got his stuff cut down in quantity he could put out, basically because he wasn't a libtard.
Yeah, it seems to be the end fate for anybody who's trying to work in that industry.
I'm just glad it was Caboose, that was the one I wound up liking and turned out to be the upstart guy who was genuinely good at his job and funny. I guess it makes sense. He was good at his job, therefore I liked him. so it goes in a circle there. But yeah, once Joel stopped producing content and Monty died, that was it. I unsubbed from Rooster Teeth on YouTube and had long since been unsubbed on their website. I do know a Rooster Teeth employee, and I want to try and get in contact with him while this story is still going on, but I have no idea how to get in touch with him. He doesn't work there anymore, but he was working there until I think a couple years ago. So I will try to figure out if I can find a way to ping him if I can remember, and see if I can get him to say something, talk about on the show next week, and do a follow up. But getting a hold, I haven't talked to the guy in 2-3 years, so.
Try not to come off like too much of a grifter then.
Yeah. I'll just approach it casually. Hey, bud, been a while. Heard your old company just exploded, and you have a clue what happened? So maybe he can leak me some juicy deets. We'll see. So yeah, that's Rooster Teeth exploding. And yeah, good times. What nicer group of jackasses. Last article we got is not really an article, it's an interview, and this was hilarious, and I just wanted to talk about it because of how funny it was. So while trolling for news before the show, I stumbled across this interview like with 30 minutes to showtime and had to sit down and read the whole thing because it was hilarious. And it's a Niche Gamer interview, and I will link this in the live show chat window up there so y'all can see it on the Discord. There was an interview with the Hitler Waifu game by Niche Gamer. And yeah, they know what they're doing. So some highlights from the interview are his closing comment. I'm getting myself permanently banned in most of Europe for this joke. Show a little appreciation and chip a couple bucks our way before the Kickstarter ends, please. With a little heart at the end. What was that thing I sent you earlier that was funny? We do all our H content as a download off our own website. Some fans really just enjoy the historical comedy and don't care about H content. So we like to give them the option to just play the game without that stuff. And then give the option to add it in for those people who really, ellipsis, want to romance the Fuhrer.
Well, maybe it's like, I don't know, somebody's lifelong goal.
I guess.
It could be.
Apparently, in this interview, we found out that their last game, something about North Korea, that I don't know anything about their other project, they actually sent out copies to the North Korean embassies, wherever they were, just to see if they could get them mad and get them free press, which makes me like this company a whole lot, and I don't really care what they produce if they're willing to do that. So I think I might actually scoop this game when it comes out, if only to support these guys.
They have clearly got trolling down to a fine art.
You have to appreciate just the level of audacious trolling going on with this. You just don't get this very much anymore.
Yeah, everybody appreciates a fine troll.
So yeah, I've linked the full interview if you want to go through the whole thing, but it doesn't really reveal a whole lot into the process of how the game's being made or what's going to be in it. But it is very, very funny. I was laughing the whole time. They talk about like how some like one of the figures is known for being historically well endowed, and how they converted that into female sexual characteristics. There's a bit about that in there. We really are the booby show when Fern's not here.
Well, I mean, someone's got to do it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It may in fact be the case that nobody really needs to do it, but that's not going to stop me.
Yeah. It's by accident. For realsies. It just so happens that all the booby news happens when Fern's not here. So yeah, that interview was fun. I just wanted to point out a few highlights from it. And I think that's all the news articles we have.
Yeah, like I said, the only other news that I've really seen is WoW News. And I suppose in WoW News, they're finally implementing a, what is it called? A thing which down levels you when you group with low level people to do a dungeon.
Oh, a mentor system? Finally?
Yeah, finally. After how many years?
Only took them a billion years to catch up on that.
Like, we had that in City of Heroes, did we not?
We had that before WoW. I'm pretty
City
sure.
of Heroes was before WoW, wasn't it?
Maybe
I could be wrong about that.
It's in the ballpark. Might as well be.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have mentorships forever. And people have been asking for this for decades so they can actually get on and help their low-level friends.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
a decade.
It's sort of necessary at this point because of the way the game has sort of, as a community, has sort of decayed. But, yeah, like, Classic won't need it, so it won't be going into Classic, obviously, because Classic is built around you need to talk to people. But the refinement to that system, though, that I think... No, I don't think it's entirely unique to World of Warcraft, but it was a good move for them to adopt it, was that adding a system where when you join a group, you can synchronize to another group member's quest progression. And
finally?
Yeah, and they're also going to add a system which will generate a level appropriate award based on that quest, so that you can basically do quests along with somebody else, no matter what quest chain they're doing or where they are in it. You can just synchronize to that point and then play along.
That's good. I'm a little worried about them helping out in dungeons because it's just going to make more people go through dungeons and have people carry them, because I know they will not do anything to make sure the challenge stays intact. They haven't cared about challenge and leveling up dungeons forever, but it's just another straw on that camel's already broken back.
Well, I mean, realistically, I only care about playing video games with people I know, so there's no skin off my nose if they want to destroy the game that way.
And we do the dumbest stuff like two-manning Polaris, so traditional difficulty curves don't really apply.
Well, Polaris is a walkover now, because apparently having challenge in your game is something that's bad.
It's so old hat, that challenge. Nobody wants that anymore.
Well, apparently all of the people who want Classic back do want a little bit of challenge, so...
Yeah.
But, remember, don't forget, we think we do, but we don't. That was said about Classic.
Mm-hmm. It was said a lot about Classic. More than any other thing they put out.
No,
you do what you don't.
That was
Classic specifically.
That was what coined the phrase. That was the response. That was a response to a request for Classic service. That's where it originally comes from.
That was in an early request for him, like back in Wrath of the Lich King days.
Please don't talk about how old we are.
Yeah, that was like a decade ago.
No. I don't want to think about the fact that the 15th anniversary of World of Warcraft is this year.
There were 2 expansions into World of Warcraft a decade ago.
Actually, the anniversary is usually in September, isn't it? Something like that?
Yep.
15th anniversary. 15 years. Anybody you happen to know who is younger than 15 years old, World of Warcraft is older than them.
Man, I came into VTW at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. And that was a decade ago.
Man,
it's been a decade since I got drunk and decided to get on the vent. Well, I think I remember the day I came on VTW too. I was waiting on that stupid spirit bear to spawn in Grizzly Hills on my hunter. Or my friend's hunter. I got it for both of us, but I forget if I was on mine or theirs. I was trying to catch that stupid bear, and nobody was on my event server to talk to, and I came over to this one because I listen to Octail and Hordak a lot, and I posted on the old WC Radio forums a little bit.
This is why I still follow the World of Warcraft news. Is because I still have these associations. Like, there's a tiny sliver of me that wonders if maybe World of Warcraft it can't ever be the same again, but maybe it can at least be a decent game again.
I don't have the faith that it can be until Blizzard explodes and has to rebuild from scratch.
Nor do I really, but there's I still keep checking to see if maybe they've woken up.
Like, it is I've given up on the grandpa with dementia at this point. If he's running out in the street with his clothes off again, I don't really want to know.
Yeah, it's a situation now where, like, people are trying to be positive because the current patch is way better than the previous ones, but everybody who is trying to maintain their positivity that way seems to have forgotten that's largely because the previous patch was apocalyptically bad, and
also the natural progression of after they screw up big time, the next patch fixes a little bit and things start looking up, and then we crash and burn 2 patches later.
But the thing is that I think people here seem to be, and I'm not part of the community. I don't play World of Warcraft. I don't watch the streamers. It seems that everybody only cares about, like, what Preach and Asmongold think, and I don't follow either of them. But it seems to me that a lot of people are not really, when they talk positively about where Battle for Azeroth is now, they aren't actually thinking about the fact that we're almost at the end of this expansion, and you're going to have to embark on your 13-month wait or whatever silly bullcrap is going to be asked of the player base this time for the next expansion.
Yeah, I think this one will be a killer. Like, this will hurt the casual base of World of Warcraft quite hard, and they'll just have the whales left. And while that may be the majority of their income, that's also all their promotion gone.
Well, I mean, if Classic comes out and Preach and Asmongold and co, the famous WoW streamers, all decide that, what, we're actually only interested in Classic now. the main game is going to wither on the vine because so much of gaming marketing seems to lean on influencers now. I don't know if it actually does or whether that's the corporate belief that is being adopted, but certainly people seem to act as though that is the case, and I know that a lot of people do watch Preach and Asmongold do whatever it is that they do, and I don't know.
Asmongold annoys me whenever I hear him talk or see his face.
Yeah, they're only.
I just kind of want to punch it.
I don't particularly like him either. I don't think there's anything special about him. But eventually I reasoned to myself that there's no reason to watch Asmongold, but he's not actually doing anything especially evil. He's a product of the modern streaming machine, basically. He's not quite the apotheosis of it like Ninja, there's no human being left there. There is only Ninja, the person who is a streamer. But Asmongold is redeemed, I think, by the fact that I think a lot of his compatriots are a lot worse. Like, I think Preach and Asmongold have both said bad things and made bad decisions in the past, but I don't particularly hold any of that against them. Taliesin, on the other hand, I do hold the crap that he says against him because he's a twerp. But yeah, I think that the promotions operates differently now in this current world, and I'm not sure to what extent Blizzard is really taking that into account. On the other hand, the WoW Classic thing may be just a huge capitulation, because I think that about 50% of the reason that they held off on WoW Classic was because as we moved into the influencer age, it became abundantly clear that WoW Classic would primarily cannibalize their own player base. Primarily. So they aren't going to make more money off of it necessarily. It's only when they got to the point where the old school players had left in such numbers that it became practical for them to take that approach, to go for the classic thing, because they knew that the people who were dependable had left, and that they would be an easy win to get back if you simply brought back the game that they were playing instead of destroying it. I think that it was that sort of cynical decision. The reason they wouldn't do it before is because they knew that they wouldn't get new people, they would simply steal people from their current projects. But now, when they've lost all of that crowd, they want to bring them back. So I think that's sort of how it's operating, and I think that it in all likelihood will operate that way to some extent, at least for a while. There's no way of knowing in practice how well it will take off, especially with the number of people these days who watch games rather than play them. Although, I mean, the amount of free time you've got to pay attention to other things in WoW Classic under those mechanics, like, if you're not doing anything particularly hard, everything in WoW Classic takes a lot longer, so maybe people will spend more time watching streams by personalities who can keep them entertained. Then again, you also die to a mispull in Classic.
There's
What's that? You're playing a warrior and you pulled 2 mobs instead of 1? Enjoy.
Hope you got shield wall up.
Yeah, because it's only going to be up once every 40 minutes or whatever it is.
I think it was 30 minutes most of its life. But I more so than playing WoW Classic itself, I'm not actually that excited to go back and play WoW Classic. I will do it because literally everyone I know is asking me to do it. I am more interested in the analytics and Blizzard's response to WoW Classic when it comes out. Will it be a flash in the pan fad? Will it do really well? This just hasn't been done before.
Right.
Reverting a game to an older state and running it as a competitor alongside your main product is literally a scenario that could not have been created with any game except World of Warcraft. And I'm very interested to see how this plays with people, because it's going to give us a lot of data as a starting point for, do people really care about when they say, yeah, but the new version sucks, it was better when it was old? Is that enough to sustain a market?
Yeah, I'm not sure that it is enough to sustain one, but I think that it very much depends on the community, because I think you can't recreate the same community, but you can recreate a community, because there is no community to speak of in WoW as it currently exists. They've done everything they can to erode guilds and dependence on other people as much as possible.
Yeah, I think you will attract a lot of that type back. Like, that's how we grew up. That's what we're used to. That's what we like. That's what we grew to like, because we played WoW that way. We grew up and spent most of our social time at home playing World of Warcraft that way when we weren't out with our friends. Like, so we understand how social interaction is supposed to work. And I think this is going to be a culture shock for a lot of youngins out there.
I'm trying to find if my old WoW Classic guide has the cooldowns in it, so I can find out what the cooldown on Shield Wall is, but it doesn't have the cooldown listed.
It was like 30 minutes or an hour or something like that.
It was long. It was real long.
Yeah, that was for the specific phase in the boss fight where you needed it, or you made it oopsie. There was no utility there. Those were the two scenarios you would push that button.
If you were the main tank and you fat-fingered your Shield Wall button, you get subbed out.
Yeah, like, OT takes over. That's why you had MTOT, because cooldowns were so dang long. If you wanted any reasonable number of attempts on bosses, you had to rotate who was taking the shield wallable hit. But, yeah, it's going to be a culture shock for these younger kids, and I'm really interested to see how they respond to an environment that is not automated, where you have to interact with people. What are they going to do when somebody whispers them, hey, you want to join up and quest in this area, who's not somebody they know? There's just a dude in Westfall who's having trouble with the pillagers.
They're going to go on Twitter and complain that they were sexually harassed.
Yeah, like, this is the culture we live in now. But, you know, that is not a mindset that's compatible with World of Warcraft in its classic state.
Well, they're going to have some growing up to do, aren't they?
Yeah, like, you have to actually talk to people.
and ask the mage for water.
Yeah. Or yeah. No, you're not going to buy your own water. It's classic WoW. There's no way to make money unless you know how to auction house. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, the market reset will be interesting because the values of things will go back to the way they were.
Yeah. That might be enough to get me excited, actually. I cannot play the modern auction house in World of Warcraft and have fun with it. There's no competitive markets where you form personal rivalries with other people and you effectively act as one-person businesses who are all in either friendly or just completely venomous rivalries with each other. That just doesn't exist in the modern auction house.
I'm not sure what the sort of like mod compatibility will be though, because there's a lot of auction house stuff that has been pretty much poisoned by mods, like things that are automatically set up to list things in obnoxious ways to push people's listings away and that sort of thing. Like there's a lot of stupid crap in there now, but yeah, I'd be interested for that world where there's actual value to commodities, like I can produce Elementium, or I've managed to work out a really good fellcloth farming route and I've got fellcloth to put up, and suddenly you become important to the market. And anybody can do it as well. Like if you've got time on your hands, you can become a copper tycoon at level 10.
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you really want to make the money a bit faster, you can take yourself up to 40 and do the rounds in Tanarus for Mithril. Like, there's all kinds of markets you can take over. Like, I used to love that game on my server. It was my favorite minigame in World of Warcraft, was playing the auction house. There were about 15, solo person auction house tycoons who were on the auction house on my server, and I was in that cluster for a good bit. And me and one guy hated each other so much, we would write nasty grams to each other in the mail.
Oh, well, you played on Bleeding Hearts, so...
No, this was on Durotan.
Oh, on Durotan?
Yeah. This was on Durotan, where Nikita Banana was the dude's name. And we hated each other. There was no friendly rivalry there. It was venom both ways, writing the most inflammatory things you could say to each other back and forth for undercutting each other and catching them at their preferred times on the market. And this is how I learned business. I'm only half joking.
I had a friend in engineering school who when we got started, because he was the one who got me into World of Warcraft. When we got started, he was like, "Oh, I don't have enough gold, and there's and everybody in my zone's begging for gold constantly as well." So what he did is he hired all of like the level 10 herbalist newbies to gather a quota of Peace Bloom for him, and he would pay for it, and then he would use that to wheel and deal on the auction house. So he had employees in World of Warcraft.
I approve of this. I love capitalism and playing the game right.
Because every newbie gets excited about getting a few gold right, but not every newbie wants to spend all the time learning how to wheel and deal on the auction house to turn their Peace Bloom into decent profit. So, everybody found their niche.
Go into general chat in Silverthorn or wherever and be like, "Hey, you want a couple gold? Bring me 60 Peace Bloom."
And the thing is that 60 Peace Bloom's easy to collect.
Yeah,
like it's something anybody can do. Even a newbie's like, "Wow, that's a goal I can actually meet, and I'll get like shiny gold coins for it."
Yeah, like, and you could take them to him and be like, "Here you go," and you'll get your couple gold. Plenty of newbies will have it just laying around if they picked up Herbalism to begin with, because they don't have a clue what Peace Bloom's for yet.
It was a very long time before I worked out what a Peace Bloom was for. I took tailoring and enchanting off the bat, and I had no idea what Peace Bloom was. Occasionally I'd get it from a chest and I'd be like, what the heck is this thing?
So you got to, it's just such a fun idea to go back to the old style of doing things. If I was confident it wouldn't be corrupted by either mods or Chinese gold farmers or people with actual business experience coming in and ruining the fun for everybody, I would love to do this.
A raging culture of gamer entitlement.
Yeah, like, there's so much against it. Although, the most exciting part of it to me probably is getting the opportunity to attempt to play the auction house again. Because I made some longtime friends and some of the most heated enemies I've ever had playing that auction house. And I was in high school doing that. Man, I was in late high school doing that, I think. No, it was early high school, actually. Holy crap, WoW's old.
You could actually, like, selling gear on the auction house, like, that you made was actually a thing. Like, all of the crafted gear now is complete garbage.
Yeah, no, but nobody crafts.
But if you were lucky enough to get your paws on, like, a rare craftable recipe or something, man, you could make a lot of money.
You got that Arcanite Reaper? Ho.
But it was also a real, like, you felt really accomplished when you crafted something as well. It wasn't just, like, grind up 50 bajillion leather. It was, like, if you wanted to craft something like Robe of the Void, you would spend a lot of time gathering resources for it. And the rewards were worth it.
There were attainable power goals that were huge steps up, despite the numbers and percentages not being nearly as big as they are right now when you get an upgrade in WoW. You ain't going to get a 20% DPS increase for one item. You're going to get like a 2% increase if you upgrade a piece of gear. But, you know, being able to do that is and work towards it, and the amount of effort that was required to get there and build up those percentages to be able to top the damage meters or whatever, or be able to be the one dude with Dark Iron, despite the off-tank who was supposed to have a set and not getting around to crafting it yet.
You sound bitter.
Yeah, he held up our rating, and I was really young at the time. We were in this guild. We were raiding Molten Core, and our main tank had his full Dark Iron set. The guild gave it to him. He was a lazy piece of crap. I was tertiary tank, and we had a off tank, and I was playing primarily Fury, I think, at the time, because I was still new to the game and didn't really understand anything. And I had crafted my Dark Iron set because somebody had told me every warrior needs a full Dark Iron set, and I was in high school, so I had all the free time in the world. So I went around and crafted that stuff. And our off tank, we get to like Baron Geddon or something, and we needed him to tank for that fight for some reason or another. He's like, "Oh, I haven't got around to getting my Dark Iron set," and I just messaged the raid leader when he's about to call the raid. I'm like, "I got mine. If you want me to go get it, I can respec the prot."
Did you know how to play prot?
Nope. I think that was the first time I spec from Fury to prot in a raid. I'll figure it out. It can't be that hard, right?
Man, can you imagine modern WoW players in old Blackrock depths?
I'm not sure we have the time to do old Blackrock depths.
Yeah, like Sunken Temple was bad enough. Like last time I went into Classic Sunken Temple, it took me 4 hours to come out again. Blackrock Depths is like 5 times as long.
If you do the whole dang thing? Did you ever have anybody do Lobers after like patch 1.1?
No, because it was such an ordeal. Like, the only reason you would go down there is if your guild had run out of people with a key to Ubers.
I tried to get my key because I was so tired of having to find the one hunter in general chat who would eventually have a key.
And then roll on everything.
Yeah. Always the guy with the key. It's always a hunter and he's always a douche.
Yeah, we'll have the wondrous joy of looking for Rexxar again.
Ugh. Actually, that's not that bad. It wasn't nearly as bad as people made it out to be.
He's got a very long patrol path.
He does.
And most people don't have an epic mount. So even if you know exactly where he is, you're going to be on your Lobby mount the entire time. Like, if you just walk his patrol path, if you know his exact patrol path, and walk the entire thing, it's still going to take you 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, it's only a 10-minute walk.
Once you finally get there via taxis, ain't no flying, man.
And also, those taxis, they don't automate to the end point. You have to go to every single node. It's gonna be great. I can't wait for the Reddit posts. People are gonna be so mad, and Blizzard's gonna try and promote all the hateful comments. Like, look how much people don't like WoW Classic.
It's going to be a salt mine in there.
People are gonna be so mad. They're gonna forget about things like ammunition for ranged weapons.
Forget ammunition. They're gonna forget that they need a quiver too.
The quivers. That's right. It's not equipable. It's in the back slot. These people are gonna be so mad. Or having genuine discussions with your warlocks about whether they should get the bigger bag from Onyxia. That's gonna be fun again.
I carried my soul shard bag everywhere. I kept it stocked up. I was a good warlock. I was not one of those warlocks that arrived at every dungeon and every raid and said, "Oh, hold on, guys, I need to go farm some mobs for shards." Because remember, the soul drain, you had to kill a soul drain. Soul drain ticked once every 5 seconds.
If you're doing it,
0 points of damage, or not quite 0, very close to it.
Yeah, you had to get. You didn't have to get the killing blow to get the shard ever. I don't think.
No, you had to be using it though. So if you're doing it by yourself, you do have to get the killing blow, pretty much, because your channel is longer than most of your dots would continue for.
Yeah. Oh man, we're old.
We're old.
Holy crap! Remember when we actually had to talk to people in general chat?
Ugh. General chat on Bartholos was awful.
General chat on every server I was on was awful. Duraton was the best, as in it was the most tame, but it was also the first server I was on, so I don't think I have a very clear memory of it, so it was probably just as bad as all the other ones.
Everything still had the warm glow of newness to it.
Yeah, so... So I think we've tangented on enough. We managed to get 2.5 hours with tangents. It's better than I thought we'd do. So, alright, folks. This was a pretty chill show. Not a whole lot of super fire rants or really anything substantial.
Or content.
Just kind of us shooting the breeze, because we keep our commitments, dang it. And we'll whine about this being a train wreck as soon as we stop hitting pause, and then hopefully Fern will get back next week.
One can only hope. Yeah, hopefully he will recover. His drunken cowboy apocalypse should come to an end on Monday.
Yeah, hopefully he feels better. I did not respond to him because he went away as soon as he said something in show host, so I haven't
he probably passed out.
DM. Yeah, I assumed he died. So, hope he's doing all right. But he should be back next week, and you won't have to put up with us rambling. And now that he's not in Drunk Cowboy season, he might actually have a week. And unlike us, who have been busy. Oh dear, oh dear. All right, email topic of the week. Write to us about why we're old in Classic WoW.
I'm not sure I want to know.
Talk to us about WoW. Anything, early Wrath of the Lich King backwards. Make us feel old. And we'll tell you stories. Because we have WoW stories. For years, we could sit here and tell you WoW stories. We probably could go for about 2 years telling people WoW stories if we just sat and kept talking.
Yeah, I mean, nobody likes Sodge.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Probably find out where there's inconsistencies between our stories and what we're misremembering if we went that long. Because it's been so dang long. The stories are starting to blend together, and I'm not sure what parts of them are still factually accurate.
I'm
the
pretty
more
sure
I try to remember them.
I'm pretty sure that the skin comes right off.
Don't worry, guys. I've done this fight 100 times. Runs right off the edge. That was still the best moment in that VTW guild. I didn't react to it at all publicly. I just let it happen.
Well, I mean, you went into a private channel to laugh, so...
Did I? I don't remember. Oh, that was the best. Oh, Snaffle Monkey. You're so Snaffle Monkey. And closing comments, I guess, go.
I don't really have anything to say. We're just wallowing in nostalgia at this point.
Yeah. Get off our lawn. Actually, you can come on our lawn if you're old enough to remember Classic WoW and can talk to us about stories like this. Then you can sit on the porch with us and tell the youngins to get off our lawn with us.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with those youngins always getting on people's lawns.
We worked hard for that lawn. Like, we've been doing this for 10 years. That lawn has had 10 years of upkeep. And we got 15 years of World of Warcraft experience. Even not playing, it still counts. All right, folks. I think we're done. We'll have a coherent show for you next week.
Maybe.
Sayonara. Bye-bye.